More than 30 countries have banned travel to and from the United Kingdom following the emergence of a more contagious variant of the coronavirus. European Union countries are meeting to try to agree rules on movement from the UK. The World Health Organization, which has been monitoring the new variant, has reiterated that there is currently no evidence to suggest a change in the disease's severity. The EU's medical regulator has approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, the first coronavirus vaccine it has cleared for use. The vaccine will be rolled out across the bloc starting next week. 2 men have been found guilty of the manslaughter of all 39 Vietnamese migrants found dead in a lorry trailer in Essex in southeast England. They suffocated in the sealed container en route from Zeebrugge to Purfleet in October last year.
French President Emmanuel Macron has the coronavirus, his office says, adding that he will stay away from people for 7 days. In the United States, officials publicly charge a Kenyan man of plotting to attack an American city under the direction of militant group Al-Shabaab. 8 Hong Kong democracy activists appear in court for their part in protests this summer. And news reports say the United States plans to publicly charge another suspect in the deadly 1988 bombing of a passenger airplane over Scotland.
We begin with the latest on the pandemic here in Japan. The total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases has topped 200,000. The 100,000 mark was reached at the end of October, meaning the country's caseload took less than 2 months to double. The recent daily tallies have been much higher than the figures reported when Japan was under a state of emergency in the spring. More than a quarter of total cases have been from the capital, Tokyo. Local officials confirmed 392 new cases on Monday. That's the highest figure on a Monday, when the number is usually lower because many medical institutions are closed on weekends. The total number of infections now stands at nearly 52,000 in the city of 14 million.
Please give priority to your lives first during the year-end and New Year holidays. I want you to protect your family, people around you, and your own life.
Governor Koike is calling on residents to stay home during the holidays. Meanwhile, the Tokyo government has begun offering free hotel rooms over the New Year period to people hit hard by the pandemic. Officials say people who lost their homes can stay at business hotels free of charge for 4 weeks. Officials took a similar measure earlier this year when the capital was under a state of emergency. They say it was applied in about 1,250 instances between April and June. As it pushes to fight the outbreak, Japan's government has approved a record draft budget of 106 trillion yen for the next fiscal year. That's more than $1 trillion. The draft plan was given the go-ahead at a cabinet meeting on Monday. It's about $40 billion bigger than the initial budget for the current financial year. The package includes a range of policies to support businesses hit hard by COVID and to prevent the healthcare system from being overwhelmed. It also includes nearly $50 billion that would be set aside to deal with other aspects of the pandemic. The government expects tax revenues to drop by more than $50 billion to about $550 billion as the outbreak saps corporate earnings. It plans to raise more than $420 billion through new bonds to fund over 40% of the budget. The draft budget is expected to go to the Diet early next year. A growing number of countries are banning travel from Britain after a new coronavirus variant is rapidly spreading throughout southern England. The British government on Sunday imposed a lockdown on London and other parts of southeast England. The BBC says the variant was first confirmed in September, and in mid-December, the strain was found in nearly 2/3 of all COVID cases in London. The government is taking the case very seriously.
Unfortunately, this virus, the new strain, was out of control.
Health officials believe the variant is up to 70% more transmissible. However, they say there's no firm evidence yet that the new strain causes more serious illness. Meanwhile, German Health Minister Jens Spahn said EU experts believe existing vaccines are effective against the new variant. He told local media that the new strain has no impact on the vaccines, which remain just as effective. But the variant has already been spreading. The World Health Organization says the new strain has been found in several other countries, including Denmark, the Netherlands, Italy, and also in Australia. EU countries are taking no chances. France, Germany, Italy, and several other countries have suspended passenger flights from Britain. France and Belgium are also suspending train and ferry services to and from the UK. Similar travel restrictions on Britain are being taken in other parts of the globe, such as Iran, India, Argentina, and Chile. Moving on to South Korea, where health authorities reported a record daily number of deaths on Sunday. Officials in the metropolitan area are tightening restrictions to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Health officials across the country confirmed 24 deaths on Sunday. It came a day after they reported 1,097 new infections. The figures were both the highest ever. Seoul officials say restaurants and other eateries accounted for about 40% of cluster infections during the past month.
We cannot overcome the current crisis unless we reduce the cluster infections at private gatherings of families, colleagues, and friends.
The acting mayor said the Greater Seoul area will ban gatherings of 5 or more people from Wednesday through January 3rd. Violators could face fines or other penalties. Meanwhile, the central government is cautious about raising the alert level to the highest in its 5-tier social distancing scheme. It says raising the level will significantly impact the economy and should be avoided as much as possible. A former Japanese agriculture minister says he'll resign as a lawmaker. Yoshikawa Takamori is in the midst of a political scandal involving Japan's poultry industry and the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Yoshikawa issued a statement on Monday citing health reasons for his resignation. Sources say a former head of a major egg production company in Hiroshima Prefecture disclosed that he gave about $48,000 in cash to Yoshikawa while he was in office. NHK has not found any record of the transactions in reports filed by the former minister's office. Japanese law requires politicians to report donations over certain amounts. Yoshikawa served as agriculture minister from October 2018 to September of last year. A top U.S. scholar on East Asia, Ezra Vogel, has died at the age of 90 at a hospital in Massachusetts on Sunday. He was a professor emeritus at Harvard University and the author of Japan as Number One. After obtaining a doctorate in sociology at Harvard, Vogel spent 2 years in Japan to study the country's language and society. His 1979 bestseller, Japan as Number One, analyzed factors behind Japan's rapid economic growth in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. Vogel is also known as an expert on China. He spent nearly 10 years to publish a book on the life of Deng Xiaoping, who advocated a policy of reform and opening up. His linguistic abilities allowed him access to a vast network in Japan and China. Last year, he published China and Japan, a book that addresses the history of exchanges between the countries. The U.S. Embassy in Tokyo has posted a comment on Twitter saying Vogel's scholarship brought Americans and Japanese closer together, and Japan as Number One is still essential reading for understanding Japan's economic might.